Missions today.
No, he usually calls me on Saturday right here. No.
My wife looked at it today. She said something about there being trees on it or something.
Well, you gotta figure out, but you gotta figure out who the next guy's gonna be.
Ooh.
Oh, is it really?
How you doing, man?
Not good.
Never mind.
Well, you don't even know half of it. I'm just getting in from that movie.
A reasonable price. And it ain't gonna go for a reasonable price. Like a price gonna go for something crazy. That's ridiculous. That's what's so frustrating. But still,
I know. I know.
pay so much for it.
I know.
Before you
Man.
even for a slab, anything.
Oh. What you think?
It's gotta come down. I mean, maybe it won't. I don't know.
They offered all the older
Terrible.
newer lots, and they were
Yeah.
now they're going for 180.
Jesus.
Not a bad idea.
Did you write it down for me?
We're missing two. Yeah, but they're not coming, so we're,
You're always positive.
It's
You're always
us.
positive, man.
us and us. I'll call the regular meeting of the Lake Charles Harbor and Terminal District, October 25th, 2021 to order. If everyone please stand. Dear Lord, we ask your blessing on this board and pour it in the people whose livelihood depend upon it. We ask you to guide this board in our decisions, that they are for the betterment of those we serve. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Ms. McClary, if you'd lead us in the pledge.
Please face the flag and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The board encourages public comments and questions regarding all agenda items. Persons wishing to do so should complete a speaker's card, which is at the entrance to the boardroom. When speaking or asking a question on an agenda item, one should, in addition to completing the card, come to the microphone, be recognized, provide your name, address, and phone number. Comments by individuals will be limited to 3 minutes. First item, approval of the September 27th, 2021 regular meeting minutes.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the September 27, 21 regular meeting minutes.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Darbone, second by Mr. Guidry. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carried. First submission 2021-46, Mr. Self.
Yes, sir. General Counsel requests authority from the board for the executive director to enter into a CEA as required by state law to receive the $14 million from the Southwest Louisiana Hurricane Recovery Fund. As you'll recall from the most recent 2021 legislative session, our legislative delegation developed the Southwest Louisiana Recovery Fund. These are funds that the state received from the American Rescue Fund, American Rescue Plan. It was a $30 million total, of which $14 million was appropriated to the port. And basically, we have to enter into an agreement, a CEA, with the Department of the Treasury to request reimbursement for expenditures allowed under the CEA.
I would make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve submission 2021-046.
A motion by Ms. McClary.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lorenzi. Any discussion, questions? All in favor, aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carried. Submission 2021-048, Mr. Self.
Yes, sir. Staff certifies that the public bid laws were followed to award the construction manager at risk contract with Cajun Industries LLC for the design phase of berths 4, 5, and 6 wharf and transit shed reconstruction at City Docks project. As you'll recall, earlier this year, the board authorized staff to enter into an agreement with Cajun Industries as the contractor for a Seymour project. And this is basically just certifying, it's a Porch Priority project, and this is basically certifying to Porch Priority that we followed public bid law and that they were followed when we made that award to Cajun Industries.
I have a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve submission 2021-048.
Mr. Darbone moves.
Second.
Mr. Guidry, second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carried. Submission 2021-49.
Excuse me. Staff requests the Board of Commissioners to authorize the district to enter into an agreement with the State of Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development, Louisiana Port Construction and Development Program. This is basically to accept the $15 million from Porch Priority. The agreement is required for us to be able to accept the $15 million from Porch Priority. This is on the berth 4, 5, and 6 project, and we're requesting authorization from the Port Board to enter into the agreement.
I'll move acceptance of submission 2021-049.
Second.
Mr. Lorenzi moves. Mr. Guidry, second. Any questions? No questions. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carried. Submission 2021-050, Mr. Self.
Yes, sir. Staff requests the Board of Commissioners to authorize the Executive Director to amend Resolution 2021-018, which authorized entering into a professional services agreement for pre-construction Seymour services with Cajun Industries LLC for the berth 4, 5, and 6 wharf and shed reconstruction at City Docks project. The proposed amendment would increase the authorized amount to allow for pre-construction services and testing. Essentially what this is, as Cajun Industries and the engineer work side by side in an effort to develop the guaranteed max price, the geotech and structural engineers would like to go out and do pile testing in an effort to potentially reduce the length of the piling that will be required for construction, along with the time frame involved with driving the piling. Moffitt and Nichols is the engineer, and they've looked at they've done an assessment on the cost and considered it to be reasonable.
I would make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve submission 2021-050.
Okay, Ms. McClary moves.
I'll second.
Mr. Darbone, second. Any discussion?
I have a question. Can you just elaborate a little bit on the purpose of shortening the piles?
Nick, you want to answer that?
Yes, sir. It's really to shorten the piles. Will just save us a lot of money when you're talking, around 1,000 piles. If you can shorten them anywhere from 10 to 20 feet, it's a significant savings. The reason for the pile testing is to confirm that the strength is in the soils to allow us to shorten those piles. So that's really what the pile testing is for, is to shorten them to save money in the long run.
Is there an explanation as to why the original proposal was for a longer pile, and
Yes,
other
sir.
than just saving money, now the idea?
No, I'm sorry, I follow you now. So without the pile testing data, they have to make assumptions. They have geotech data, but without the actual piles being driven into the ground, they have to make certain assumptions. And so, of course, an engineer is going to make an assumption with the safety factor involved, so the piles get longer.
So I understand the idea here is to determine whether the larger sum needs to be spent or whether the shorter pile will actually accomplish the purpose without the larger amount being spent.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Nick, also, I know there was some discussion about this cost might be able to be included in that hurricane relief money, or have y'all followed up and see if it qualified?
Yes, sir. From our interpretation of that the agreement that we're going to enter into, it says it's for structural repairs for damaged wharf and structures, I believe is how it's worded, so we should qualify it.
Okay.
And we have included it to be in.
You have
part of it.
included it?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carried. Submission 2021-051, Mr. Self.
Yes, sir. Staff recommends that the Board of Commissioners accept the lowest responsive bid of Keeling Construction LLC in the amount of $218,000 for the base bid, with a contingency of $75,000 for a total of $293,000 for the demolition of Shed 7 at City Docks, Port Project CP 21011. Subject to approval of the Executive Director and General Counsel that all appropriate conditions have been met and all requirements of the bid documents have been met, and further authorizing the Executive Director to execute all documents therewith. Essentially, I pretty much laid it out for you in reading the preamble, but we received bids for the demo of Shed 7. Keeling Construction provided the lowest cost at a cost of $218,000, and we'd like to request approval from you to enter into the agreement to allow the demo.
I'll make that motion to approve submission 2021-051. Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Darbone, second by Mr. Guidry. Any questions?
My only question is the amount of the contingency rather large for the base bid?
Yes, sir. I'll answer that question. We made it a little bit larger than normal contingency just because it's demolition, and we're trying to save a portion of the old shed because it was built in 3 phases, and there might be some electrical work we have to do, disconnect and then reconnect afterwards. So it's really just in anticipation, since it's a demolition of a very old structure that was built in multiple phases, that we might uncover something we didn't expect.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carried. Submission 2021-052, Mr. Self.
Yes, sir. Staff recommends that the Board of Commissioners accept the lowest responsive bid of Commercial Siding and Maintenance Company in the amount of $3,763,400 for the base bid plus alternate 1 in the amount of $2,239,800, alternate 2 in the amount of $37,400, and alternate 3 in the amount of $42,670, with a contingency of $1 million for a total of $7,083,270 for sheds 16 and 17 roof rehabilitation at City Docks, Port Project CP 20004, subject to approval of the Executive Director and General Counsel that all appropriate conditions have been met and all requirements of the bid documents have been met, and further authorizing the Executive Director to execute all documents therewith. Staff also requests authorization for the Executive Director to amend the 2021 capital budget. And I'll add this one last part. The work will be performed in accordance with plans and specs by Duhon and Pleasant, structural engineers for the project.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept submission 2021-052.
Mr. Clary moves.
I'll second.
Mr. Lorenzi, second. Any questions? Discussion?
I want to point out one thing before you vote. Just originally, this was going to be a roof repair project, but because of the extensive damages caused by the hurricanes, structural damage, some of the purlins will be replaced, roof will be replaced. It's more than just a repair project. That's why the cost is higher than what we anticipated.
So that actually raises a question for me. And I don't know if this is probably for Nick. So this is, and Cameron, so this is one of the projects that will be submitted by CSRS for FEMA 90% reimbursement?
Yes, ma'am. And it's already been modified in the CRS.
The
CRC.
both the budgeted and the non-budgeted amount?
Yes, ma'am. So we had them update their cost based on the full replacement, and they've actually already taken these bid numbers to update theirs.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carried. Submission 2021-053, Mr. Self.
Yes, sir. Staff requests the Board of Commissioners to authorize the Executive Director to amend Resolution 2020-048 for engineering service with Duhon and Pleasant Civil and Structural Engineers for Shed 16 and 17 roof rehabilitation at City Docks. This is basically the engineer for the project that you guys just approved, entering into the agreement. Because of the fact that it's no longer going to be a roof repair, it's going to be a roof replacement along with structural repairs. The engineering fee must be adjusted according to facility planning and controls fee curve.
Okay.
I'll move approval of submission 2021-053.
Mr. Lorenzi moves.
I second.
Mr. Darbone second. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carried. Submission 2021-054, Mr. Self.
Yes, sir. Staff requests the Board of Commissioners to authorize the Executive Director to amend a professional services agreement for engineering services with Lanier and Associates Consulting Engineers Incorporated to assist with the design, review, manufacturing oversight, inspection and testing, and commissioning oversight of the traveling import hopper for bulk terminal number 1. Previous funding consisted of the preliminary design and procurement process only. As you'll recall, we lost 2 loaders and unloaders with Hurricanes Laura and also, 2 loaders and unloaders at BT1. This is going to be a traveling import hopper for handling bayrite and rutile, which will speed up the process that we're having to undertake now to handle that cargo. And it's at a cost of $126,000, and we're requesting authorization to enter into the agreement with Lanier.
I'll move approval of submission 2021-054.
Mr. Lorenzi moves. Mr. Guidry second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carried. Executive Director, quarterly expense briefing note.
Yes, sir. This is just a briefing note to provide you an overall recap of my quarterly expenses. No action necessary.
September financial briefing note, Cameron.
Yes, sir. So for the month ended September 2021, the port generated revenues of $3.3 million, which was roughly $100,000 favorable. It's due to some higher lease revenues, due to a few changes in lease agreements with Tellurian, Driftwood, and Lake Charles Methanol. We also saw higher calcine coke than anticipated, and offsetting that was lower bayrite and raw coke tonnages, which we've kind of seen throughout the year. Expenses were roughly $3.5 million, which was $300,000 favorable, due primarily to those lower tonnages as well as improvements in our handling processes with newer equipment like the mobile harbor crane. Non-operating revenues and expenses were around $13.1 million, which was favorable, roughly $13.1 million. That's primarily due to the timing of the receipt of our insurance proceeds. In September, we actually received $12.9 million of those. And earlier this month, we received our final payment of $12.6 million. So you'll see that on next month's report. EBITDA was around $900,000, and we generated cash flow of $14.1 million. And again, part of that cash flow is the $12.9 we received in insurance proceeds. On the balance sheet, you see many of the same things we've seen in previous months. Unrestricted cash decreased $5.7 million due to insurance payments, sorry about that. Due to the property insurance payment, the self-insured retention, and it was largely offset by that $12.9 million that we received. Restricted cash increased $10.5 million, again due to our self-insured retention and the money that we're holding on behalf of the P3. Accounts receivables increased 3.9 million, and that's mostly FEMA receivable money. Fixed assets increased 10.4 million due to the completion of the mobile harbor crane, the berth 15 and 15A fender repairs, and hurricane building repairs. Construction in progress increased 1 million, and that's mostly hurricane projects that are ongoing and offset by the projects that have been completed. Current liabilities increased 2.5 million. That's mostly the money that we're holding on behalf of the P3. Long-term debt decreased 1.2 million. That's our principal payment on our outstanding bonds, and most of the other accounts stayed relatively similar. Any questions?
Any questions from anyone?
No.
Okay. Administration, finance, security, Cameron?
Yes, sir. So my staff and I are currently working on the 2022 budget, and we'll provide a preliminary version of that to y'all sometime the first week of November, so next week-ish. Keep in mind this is preliminary, meaning there will be changes as we dig further into the details. Aside for that, as mentioned in the financials, earlier this month we received the final payment for Hurricane Laura from insurance, so we are paid in full on that. Now we can focus solely on pushing FEMA and GOSEP to receive those funds as well.
Any questions? Thank you, Cameron.
Thank you.
Navigation, Channing?
Yes, sir. In addition to my report, I'd like to note that the dredge Wheeler is back working on the Calcasieu Ship Channel. She's here for a 2-week training exercise and normally does a very good job for us while she's there. The Corps has recently awarded a contract to Crosby Dredging to dredge miles 17 to 36, which is basically from Cameron LNG up to the I-10 bridge, the Industrial Canal, the turning basin by the I-10 bridge, and the Clooney Island Loop. I am not aware that the dredge has been given a notice to proceed, so I don't know what date that we expect the dredging to begin, but it'll be sometime before the end of the year. That's all I have, and if you have any questions or any questions about my report, I'll be happy to answer them. Excuse me.
Is that material going to go help the brown pelicans?
Say again?
That material's going to go help the brown pelicans where you're building the island up?
No, we already did that.
Already did that, huh? Any questions? Thank you, Channing. Operations, Todd?
Yes, sir. Recently at City Docks, we've handled 2 hydrate barges. We finished up the Iraqi rice vessel, had 2 cargo transfers, some equipment for the project, the LNG project, Venture Global, 2 hydrogen sulfide vessels, and 1 tower vessel for the wind turbines. We're expecting at City Docks in the future, short-term, a lumber vessel, another project cargo shipment, bulk rough rice, and another aluminum trihydrate barge. At BT1, we recently discharged 2 rutile ships and unloaded 5 raw coke barges and loaded a calcine barge. We've got a green coke vessel upcoming and 2 pet coke ships and hopefully a barite ship. So if you have anything, I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Any questions?
Don't have any.
Thank you, Todd. Cargo trade development, Clarence?
Thank you, Mr. President. We're currently working with a Brazilian company looking to import 10,000 tons a month of plywood coming from Paranaguá for now to 2024. We sent a rate indication in last week. Hopefully, to hear something back in the next couple of days. It was a company that we met at the Breakball Conference in Houston this past month. Also putting a submission together for Industrial Park East for Global Site Location Industries in Dallas, Texas. They're conducting a search for a company looking to build a manufacturing facility in the southern part of the United States. They manufacture non-residential lighting, mainly for grocery stores, pharmacies, and sports complex. And they need about 35 acres and 800,000 square foot facility, and it employ about 250 people. They're looking to make a decision in the next 6 to 12 months. Also, we have a USDA solicitation that's out. That bid's going to go in this week. It's only about 1,000 tons or so, and that will be for December, January delivery period. And also working on the traffic tonnage and expense budget for 2022.
Any questions?
No question.
Thank you, Terrence. Engineering, maintenance, development, Nick?
Thank you, Mr. President. In addition to my updates in my monthly report, we've been working on numerous projects, trying to get them through the design phase, including our 2 new ship loaders and our berths and the larger projects that are ongoing. As Channing mentioned, we're also working with the Corps on, since they have their dredging award out, we're going to try to tack onto that and do some maintenance dredging in a few of our docks as well, including BT1. We also have all of our projects still under construction. They're making good progress, and but like many contractors in the area, they're continuing to fight supply issues for materials. So we're working through that. And lastly, Cameron and I are working with CSRS, helping them to fight the good fight against FEMA, and GOSEP trying to get all of our projects funded and pushed through. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Nick. State lobbyist report, anything different there? Federal lobbyists?
Only thing of note is that Ms. Corley mentioned that there will likely be about $450 million available to spend in surplus money at the legislature. So she notes in her report, it's in our interest to try and get some of that directed towards hurricane recovery. So we're going to be working hard to do that.
Yep.
The only question I have really is, we've seen in the news where there were, some major construction projects had to be shut down or slowed down because of delays in FEMA funding, and I just didn't know if that or anything similar to that is something that we would be facing.
Not at this time, until Ricky and Cameron tell me to slow down. We're still pushing forward full steam ahead, but at the moment, our cash flow is okay. Can you elaborate?
I mean, if something like that's on the horizon, obviously we want to need to know.
Right. We'd absolutely let you know.
Cameron distributed a cash flow analysis, I think, last month to y'all, and I think even without delaying any projects, cash flow remains strong until at least 2023, 2024.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but some of those delays are not just from FEMA, but also from our own Louisiana Governor's Office of Homeland Security, and I think there's been some changes made at that agency, so hopefully that will expedite.
There's definitely been an effort to expedite those funds rather than go through another round of approvals.
Cameron's reached out to our GOSEP representative earlier today about some of the funds that have been in GOSEP for a little while to find out what needs to be done to expedite distribution to the board.
How long have they been there?
Some of them have been there a couple months, so that was one of the reasons I emailed her to figure out what the holdup was.
Did you feel comfortable that they were going to be moved along? Hopefully a little.
I was hopeful.
Yeah, I mean, I think we know who to get in touch with to expedite things if it comes to that.
Okay,
We
thank
had a
you.
phone conversation earlier this morning about it.
Okay, thank you for following up on that.
Any other questions? Okay, any other matters to come before the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion for executive session.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Darbone moves, Mr. Guidry second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. We'll be going into executive session.